Hello, good morning. Good morning, everyone. Do you guys hear me clearly? And today we're going to talk about cost of living in the US. All right. So we're going to wait for more viewers to join and also my co hosts. Let me message them right now. But how is everyone doing? Please tell me where you guys are coming from. And let's see. All right, I'm gonna acknowledge you online. Thank you. Hello, Jorley. He's joining us from Qatar. All right, so let me see where my co-hosts are. I think Kay's already in the background, and I'm having some audio issues here, so I might restart in a bit. Let's bring in Kay to the screen.
Hi, Paul. Hi, everyone.
Hi,
Good morning. Can you
hi.
hear
Good
me
morning.
well?
Good morning. Welcome, Kay.
It,
How is the bagong gising? Just woke up.
I woke up like this. Good morning. I was having some
Right.
technical issues coming in. I think for some reason this my StreamYard is not functioning as I set it up sooner
Right,
before. So,
right.
but anyway, thank you so much for having me again, Paul. Who, wherever you guys are, feel free to write down in the chat because this is a very important topic that we have to discuss about cost of living. I'm very excited to share this. This is one of my kind of my niche.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And I
Um,
think we have Anna on the background too, Kay. All
yeah.
of us are a little tired, but I'm glad to be back live because, last time we were not able to host a show. We needed a break. But let's bring in Anna. Oops, I think we lost
Hello.
Kay. Yep. Hello, Anna. Good morning.
Good
How are you?
morning. Hi everyone. Happy first Sanggayap naman. Oh no, second Sanggayap naman.
Second, we missed last time. Right, right. Here's Kay.
There you go. I told you I was having some technical issues.
There you go.
Me
All right.
too. Me too. Well,
Yep.
anyway,
I think all
welcome
of us did.
everyone.
Okay. Let me officially welcome everyone to our episode 34 of the DNP Unlocked Immigrant Talk Show. Today we're talking about cost of living in the US and we are live streaming and we have a lot of followers today joining us today. We would love to interact with you guys just like with any of our live stream. So please post your questions. This is a very important topic, Anna and Kay, because we get a
Mm-hmm.
lot of these questions from our followers, from our Facebook group. We're always talking about cost of living. Why is New York paying more than Alabama or Florida? Why is California paying more than Texas? Why is Tennessee not paying enough? But I think one of the bottom lines here is cost of living, and it's really hard to grasp cost of living. When I was New Year 7 years ago, I don't even know what that means. I just know that US is big.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really really big country. It's like from Philippines. I would think of it as 50 Philippines because it's 50 states. So it's hard to grasp how big it is coming from a small country and then thinking that you're in the same country, but there's variations even with the most basic groceries such as milk and egg or even
Mm-hmm.
gas for transportation, right? So it was hard for me to grasp that concept. I wish someone would have told me what really cost of living is about. And this is the birth of this concept of why we're doing this show today. Okay, Nana?
Exactly. So, yeah, when I was new, I never thought anything about cost of living. My mind was, I'm going to America, I'm gonna earn dollars. That's it. I forgot to budget or the expenses that we're about to, incur. And I think that's the number one mistake of the newly arrived nurses to forget about the cost of living. All in their minds was, I'm earning dollar, I'm earning per hour, and the worst part is they convert it in pesos or
Right,
whichever
right.
country they are. So yes, today will be a beautiful day of discussing all about money. And we have Kay who loves numbers.
I
Right,
think I was
right,
born
right.
like talking numbers when I was like when I come and said 2 cm, 3 cm, 7 cm. I'm coming out 10 now.
And you also work in the OR, so we count everything. I mean, I'm in the OR too, but I don't
Yeah,
really
yeah,
love numbers when it comes to
yeah.
money.
It's good to be. I think I love running those numbers. I love more on the math side coming into
Mm-hmm.
nursing, because nursing, a lot, we all know that a lot of people went to nursing because they don't like math, right?
Exactly.
Right. So
Right, right.
Yes,
I
I
think
agree.
having that little expertise there on the side actually helps and supplements a lot of those knowledge that we don't
Mm-hmm.
have as a nurse, and that we actually take for granted. A lot of people who would do a lot of overtime, I would see them,
Mm-hmm.
I'm paying so much money, I cannot make my ends meet because my finances is not enough, my salary is not enough, so I'm doing two jobs. Only after I sit down they realize you don't need two jobs. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Right, right.
The living that you're going through is very high, that you just pick it because somebody advised you to, but in reality you don't need to be buying those. It's just sometimes it's the lack of knowledge when it comes to finances and picking
Mm-hmm.
the cost of living that's appropriate for them. And it's just
Mm-hmm.
because somebody ahead of them were guiding them in a way that, oh, this is what we've seen, this is what people have bought before, and this is
Mm-hmm.
what's been happening before, and you just have to adapt to it just because you're kind of like following blindly and you don't know what it is. But the cost of living in the United States, after going through different states, I would say the cost of living is very self-directed.
Mm-hmm.
You don't.
True.
Yeah,
And
your financial situation is not dictated by the state where you are.
Mm-hmm.
It's not saying it's more cost of living in California. Oh, you're gonna be broke. It's not a cost of. It's really not that. But it's a good thing to know what are the costs of living in different states. Just to give you a general, but whatever general out there does not mean really specifically to you. Correct.
True.
So I want to start off. Is that okay to for a lot of people to write in the comment? Okay, like hello, Irene, George. I see that you put there you're in Finland. Let's say put the city and the state where you are or where you were before working as a nurse, and do you think how much how much hours of work you have to put in to pay for
Mm-hmm.
that housing? Again,
yeah, let's put the house first as a way to determine, right, what percentage
right?
of your income goes
The
to
percentage is
housing
so hard, Paul.
or
Percentage is
something.
hard to
They
come
should be able
on.
to do that.
We cannot do percentage. All right, just put in there. What sorry, which city and which city and state or city or country where you were in, and do you think how much hours does a nurse have to work to support that housing? Okay, like for the Philippines, an example, for the Philippines, for me to be able to buy a house in, let's say, Parañaque, right? It's not really like those bigger houses, not like Dasma. So I
Mm-hmm.
think I will need two jobs at least or three jobs to afford a house as a nurse.
Do
Correct?
you mean to say house as in you earn this house, you're paying
Correct.
mortgage, or does it
Correct.
include transportation?
No, just a house. I think we'll start with a house.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think I will need to work 80 hours a week,
Yeah, I
to
want to hear
provide,
from
or maybe more.
yeah, I want to hear from our followers in the US too. We have someone from Colorado. Eddie says here from Colorado, so maybe you can share your experience as well. Irene said she's doing 37.5 hours in Finland, um, a week. That's good. Yeah. So tell us, guys, if, for example, what Kay was saying is how much of work do you need to do to pay a mortgage? Do you need to do extra time in a week or in a 2 week cycle? Do you need to take another 12-hour shift? You know what I mean? Because that's how we do it as nurses. Oh, this house, I need 3 shifts to pay for it, right? Something
I
Here's
like
want
that.
new iPhone. I'm gonna work extra. Well, okay, you mentioned about Parañaque, right? So I'm from Manila. If I'm gonna be buying a house in Manila, I think I need 5 jobs.
yeah, right. Exactly,
Yeah,
when you're gonna live in the main
In a
center.
city, yes, yes.
yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna share my experience in New York City. So New York City have five boroughs. It's
Mm-hmm.
like being in the Philippines, like it's like NCR. It
Towns.
doesn't mean that
Uh,
you're part of Muntinlupa. You have the same cost of living, for people in Makati. Um, so example, in New York City, there's five boroughs. Maybe if I live like in like Queens all the way to the end of the Queens, I only need one job. But if you're
Mm-hmm.
talking about, oh, I live in Manhattan, oh, I need two to three jobs for that. Because if I'm a family of four, then I will certainly need at least two or three source of income. Same thing with Hawaii. I've seen a lot of people from
mm,
Honolulu, Hawaii. The cost of Hawaii is one of the most expensive cost of living, and they need like two to three sources of income as a
Mm-hmm.
nurse if you want to buy a property in Hawaii. So how about you, Paul? How's in Texas?
Okay, so depend. Texas is big. I think we have 900 counties. Okay, it really really big. Or I may be wrong. Might be 900 cities total. And of course, it's the biggest mainland state, right? So Texas could be comparable to three or four states. So really, in general, if you say, "Oh, I'm from Texas and this is my cost of living," it's like saying, I work in one of the 900 cities, which can have varying cost of living. Let's say, for example, two cities that I've worked at. One is Rio Grande Valley, right? um, which is close to the Mexican border. That's where I started my career. I love that place. Very suburban kind of style, lots of stuff to do, but low cost of living compared to Houston or Dallas, right? So houses could be running from 200,000 and you get a big yard, big house with three-bedroom. So mortgage would somewhere be around 1,000 to $2,000, and average earning in that city is about 35, 45 an hour depending on your experience. So you would probably need two or three shifts to pay for a mortgage, but then you have a big house, which means you can even go smaller. You can have a condo style studio or one bedroom condo style apartment that could probably be one shift and it will pay out. One or two shifts will pay out for it. So cost of living is extremely cheap. Compared to Houston, of course, Houston is one of the big cities in Texas, right? So obviously, in Texas, one of the higher cost of living is Houston, but that is Texas. In the whole nation, Houston is still one of the five biggest cities, but with the lowest cost of living. So to cut it short, if I'm when I moved to Houston, um, at this point I would need probably four or five shifts, probably six shifts or 2 weeks worth of income to pay for mortgage, right? And that's me talking as a single person. All right, we're only talking about mortgage, we're not even talking about car, gas,
Yes.
groceries, and all
Mm-hmm.
that. We're going to talk about that later, but the point is I need more shifts to afford Houston, and this works to the advantage of those that are double nurse income, because you bring two money into the pot and now you reduce that number of days that you work. Something like that. So that's the difference in cost of living. And if you think about it, I'm inside the same state, right? But because you're moving
Mm-hmm.
to a bigger cities with lots of stuff to do, for example, or more opportunities, if you put it that way, or it's also an international airport hub, so which is one of the things in my checkbox when I was moving to a big city. uh, you kind of like pay for the price of living in a bigger city, kind of like that, like kind of like when I was in the Philippines too. I grew up in the Quezon City. Obviously, Quezon City is much more expensive than when I say move to Cebu or Davao or Baguio, which are other cities outside the capital.
Yeah. Thanks, Paul. How about you, Anna? From your experience, you've lived outskirts of New York City, and
Yeah.
a lot of Filipinos live around there, and even if they
Mm-hmm.
work in Manhattan or they work in
Mm-hmm.
other boroughs. I've never lived in upstate New York or that area, but I did have
Mm-hmm.
work in that area
Mhm.
before as well.
So like what you said earlier, okay, like New York is have five boroughs, and I'm not really sure which borough I belong to because I'm not in upstate, I am in between upstate and in the city. I'm in Hudson Valley. And you're right, there's so many nurses here that live here that work in Manhattan. Before, I came from Westchester County, wherein it's like very expensive. It's like lesser value of Manhattan. So now I'm in Hudson Valley. The houses here are cheaper. When I started renting 9 years ago, 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, you have your own laundry. It was only $1,500 9 years ago. Okay, as compared to Manhattan, it will be tripled. So now that we bought a house, now that I'm comparing our mortgage from my place to Manhattan, oh my god, it's outrageous, right? Hey, you know that. My mortgage, we're paying 3,200, and I met someone when I was going traveling, like they're paying double of it in Manhattan or in our boroughs of New York. So here it's a little cheaper. Our place is some kind of like a Tagaytay vibe, you know. We can go to Canada by driving 5 hours, and we can go to New Jersey 1.5, Connecticut 1 hour, and then on the other side we have PA wherein it will take 2 hours. So I love where we are right now because very accessible to the train if you don't want to drive, and we have a lot of Ubers, taxis, and Lyft. So the cost of living, how many hours do I work? Well, I love working. And I love earning, but it and since we are two income earner, my husband is also a nurse. That would be enough. But since we just bought a house and there are a lot of repairs that we're doing, so to make that up cost, we work extra. But right now we work 47 hours in 2 weeks, and we are no longer traveling, so it cut a little, but it's a big jump from weekly pay to every 2 weeks. But we've been here for almost 8 months. It's a blessing and a little curse. But we love owning it.
Owning a house and actually renting are very very different things, and I will always say it's never bad to rent a house. It's
Yeah,
never always good to buy a house either.
true.
And I've seen a lot of people who push their limits and become, they call it, house broke. Paul,
True.
Yeah.
have you heard
Mm-hmm.
about people who are
Mm-hmm.
house broke?
Yeah,
Lot,
yeah.
not only heard, Kay, I've seen a lot
I met
because
them.
they push their budgets too much to where now they're just paying the house. Their house, well, I'm not saying it's bad, but I mean they got it from Facebook Marketplace. All their sofas with bed bugs.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. I mean, if I'm going to buy a house, when I bought a house, I made sure that somebody asked me, "You've been in the States for 4 years. You haven't bought a house?" Because it wasn't prime time for me. You know what I mean? I mean, I'd love to travel. I didn't need a house, right? I need a rental place where I can put my stuff. And the other thing is, it. I talk it. It's always about budget. I
Mm-hmm.
don't want to be like deep in debts as what happened to my
Mm-hmm.
mom and dad that kind of ruined our life. Money,
Mm-hmm.
to be honest, is what made our lives toxic. So I didn't want to be going through the same thing. So I didn't want to take on a very big loan that's going to tie me up for 30 years until I'm really, really sure of it that that's
Mm-hmm.
something that I can pay for. You know what I mean? And I'm not going to be house broke. So I said,
Mm-hmm.
if I'm going to buy a house, I want to be able to like afford at least buying furnitures, right? And okay, when I moved in here to my house, I've had it for 2.5 years, turning 3 years. Um, to be honest with you, to furnish a 3 floor, 5 bedroom house, I mean the fifth bedroom I converted to an office. Um, I would say I spent less than more than 50,000 to furnish the whole house,
Wow.
right?
Yeah.
And it's not. I mean, I'm not even fully satisfied with it yet. I still want more stuff to be done, but of course, it's all about budget, and that's a lot of money. But I
Mm-hmm.
know when I bought the house, I was ready for it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
financially, speaking on financial standpoint. But Kay, it is a big commitment. You know that you've moved
Yeah.
houses multiple times, and I just bought a house recently. So that is why I had to wait. I had to wait till I'm ready. I'm fully convinced. And not only that, my pocket is fully convinced. You know what I mean?
True. Your bank account.
Emergency funds,
Yeah.
okay, right?
Mm-hmm.
If my bank account says you're ready, then I'm ready. Because at the end of the day, Kay, it's all about budget. Because
Mm-hmm.
what would I do with a big house if I can't even buy the mattress that I want so I can sleep fully? Because I work hard as a nurse, I need to be able to sleep fully, right? But I
You need
can't
a
buy it
memory
because
foam.
never home with the best level of firmness so you can sleep good. You know what I mean? Something like that.
If someone commented on you waited 4 years. Well, we waited 8, 9 years before we were able to get a
Hmm.
house.
Hmm.
And like you said, number one factor will be budget
Budget,
because
yeah.
it will eat up with a lot of your money owning a house. And number two, we had a hard time looking for a house too. We waited 2 years. We've been going in and out. We're seeing houses or houses in a day. So
Hmm.
that was hard.
It's
Like
hard.
we were out big many times, and there's a lot of platform. But like I always remember what you said before. You and Pay, in every big decision that you're going to make, money will always be part of it, not
Yeah.
your emotions. So, yep.
There's I hear someone
Your little
complaining there in the backyard.
That's
Yeah, it
my
said, yeah, arf.
Pomeranian. I'm
Yeah,
sorry
arf,
about that.
arf.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you own a dog, that's a
He's ag-
very high
he's
cost of
agreeing
living.
to me.
ah,
Agreeing to me.
Because
My mom
expensive.
is saying it correct.
yeah, cost of living very high. Dog sitters. I think dog sitters make so much money, correct? In New York,
Mm.
that's what I've heard. Like they can
Everything that's okay, everything that relates to dogs, they make a lot of money.
Vet,
Veterinarian
animal,
technicians,
food,
groomers,
fruit,
yeah, food,
yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I think
And when
that's
you
what
go
I wanted
away,
to
when you
do
go
if I move
away,
away from nursing. Yeah, I want to work in the pet industry
me too.
it
I'm
is.
as a
actually learning
groomer.
how to groom now. I'm
Yeah.
learning how to groom. Because I have two Pomeranians. I was talking
Hmm.
about this early morning when Ryan picked me up. Like, hey, since I'm learning how to groom, I cut their nails. I cut their, I groom them. Might as well really enroll myself because I'm enjoying it.
Yeah.
And you
Is
know
there
what?
a board exam for registered
No,
groomer?
no, none. But you have to complete a certain log or hours.
Yeah,
So
it's
to
a
complete, yeah.
technical course. Yeah,
And
and yeah,
it's
but
$15 to walk a dog, all $15. I'm gonna walk all of them. I'm
yeah, I
okay with
know
it.
that's 10 to 15 minutes. Yep.
I
Some
I paid
people
someone
ask for
like
more.
yeah, I paid someone like 100, I think $125 for that grooming. But
Mm-hmm.
it's a cat. So again, but
Yeah.
I'm not even in the New York City, which is expensive, and I live in Maryland right now, and it's I would think like Maryland was cheaper, right?
Yeah.
But not really because Maryland has a lot of hubs here. We call it like we're very close to Washington D.C. Again, if you live around the metro, big metro. When we say big metro, like Washington D.C., um, Austin, Texas. I mean, sorry, Dallas, right? Dallas, Texas, Houston,
Dallas.
Texas.
Mm-hmm.
Those are your big metros. Like this, were a lot of international airport stays. Again, that's
Mm-hmm.
how you identify a big metro. Is there is a big international airport. So
Like
if you
hub.
live around that area, then there will be most likely higher cost of living as you get closer to those section
True.
location.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, this is a very good thing. If you're watching, this is a very good hint. If there's a new airport that's built in that area, invest on real estate.
Right.
Seriously.
Right.
Seriously, if you're watching this as I'm from the Philippines, if they started building airport in that area, it means there's a big market coming in, there's a big demand in that location. There's gonna be quick in and out of people in that location. I've heard that when they put airport in, I think that was in, is it Tarlac? They just recently put one there, or Clark, right? And
Yeah.
then the housing market around that area just went high because you can
Yeah.
now get direct flights internationally through that airport hub. So again, if you go around the circle of a metro, the prices go lower as you go further out.
Mhm.
Correct, Paul? Is that the same
Outside
in
the
Houston?
yeah, in Houston we call it the loop. So when you're in the loop, it's literally a loop of a freeway, and I'm inside the loop. It's expensive, right? So my house is taller but small on a smaller lot, right? But you're inside the city. As you
Yeah.
go outside, it's much cheaper. You get bigger lots, bigger house, much cheaper. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So Jax, our moderator, can we show like the cost of living map here in the United
Yeah.
States? What happened to Anna? She gone?
No, she's there.
So
She's there.
all right, so salary you need to afford the average home in your state. So if you go to Google, if you write it down and type cost of living index,
Mm-hmm.
okay, so it will give you somehow a picture of the map. Cost of living index is just in the average. We're not talking about NorCal. We're not talking about South California. We're not talking about specific, let's say in Texas. We're not talking about Houston or Austin. So, but when you look at the map, it will tell you the general consensus. So, kind of they average this based on the majority of the places in that state. Okay, but it doesn't mean like I live in Sacramento. Will I have the same cost of living in let's say Bay Area in San Francisco? It's not like that. Okay, will I have the same cost of living if I live all the way in Bakersfield, California, compared to San Diego, California? It's different. But this map will only give you like the average. Okay, the average of per state. So you can see the dark red it is,
Look
the
like New
more
York.
it's deep red, right? So, but again, when I used to work in New York, let's give an example of New York. Thank you, Anna, for that. If you see 91,700, we're talking about. By the way, this map was taken based from also from Zillow, mortgage calculator from Zillow.
Mm-hmm.
So just to give you an idea where this came from, and you can see it's on what do you call derived from how much that net. So, for example, if you live in New York, it's saying here that the average amount of money that you need to take home to buy a house is your salary should be around 91,720. Okay. So, how much is that? Paul, you have a calculator right up to you? So, if
Well,
you
what do you
go,
mean?
yeah, 91,720 divided
Mm-hmm.
by 52 weeks. Okay. This is how you're
Ninety-one
going to
thousand.
calculate it. Okay,
Ninety-one thousand
again, if
seven
you have
hundred
a
twenty
calculator,
divided by 52.
91,720 divided by 52 weeks in a year. Okay, now you get 1,763. Now you have to divide that on the total number of hours you work. So if you work 40 hours a week, so you divide it by 40 hours a week. So we can try that by 40. Okay, what number you see? So 44. So what does this mean? This means that you have to earn 40, at least $44 an hour. All right. That's how you get and use these maps for the cost of living. If you work 36 hours, so again, it's 1,700 divided by 36 hours. But for this reference, we're going to do 40 hours a week. So for a
And
person who's going to be working in New York and living in New York, you need to have at least $44 an hour income
right,
to be
right.
able to afford average home on a 10% down payment for with a 30-year mortgage. Okay.
And let me do add that this is a state average. You're still not
Mhm.
talking about
True.
regional differences. Like, for
Mm-hmm.
example, California, as you go closer to San Francisco, that number heavily skews up. Or as you go closer to New York City, which is a very, very small portion of New York, that
Yep.
number most probably heavily goes up. So, very, very important that nurses are skilled with numbers, because if, like we keep telling since day one in DNP Unlocked, if you're not good with finances, your budget, you're gonna go broke, or someone else is gonna make you broke because they're selling you scam financial investments. Whatever. We're gonna talk about it next time.
So yes, correct. Good thing you
It's the
mentioned, Paul,
coffee.
that this is your mean. So it can be lower. You can save money if you go to those locations that are cheaper. Definitely, if you live in New York City, the five boroughs, this is going to be on the lower part. So again, if you're going to be living in New York City is not the median cost of living of New York. It's more
Mhm.
expensive. And by it means that you need to do extra job. $44 an hour is not going to be enough. You might need to go a little bit towards on to the
Mm-hmm.
$50 an hour, because according to realtor.com, the average cost of the median home that was sold in New York is around 749,000.
Mhm.
Okay, and we're not talking about big houses like in Texas.
No, yes.
749,000. How big is this house?
Well, it can be a 3 bedroom.
Three
How
bedroom
many
ranch
square feet?
house.
How many square feet? Because you can compute it by square feet. Because
Yeah.
yeah, how big is that house for a 7 or 4?
I would say you can look around more than $200 per
You,
square feet, Paul.
yeah,
Yes, I think
you
yes.
see, Kay,
Mm-hmm.
that was what intimidated me to move to California and New York. To be honest with you, I do love visiting California and New York. They're beautiful states. I'm a city guy, you know what I mean? I've always been a city boy. I love stuff to do. I love being in a bustling city. I feel like I'm part of something big. You know what I mean? There's always a city vibe. There's always two types
Yeah.
of people, rural
Mm-hmm.
and city. But what
Yeah.
intimidated me and my best determinant of if I want to work there or not, since when I traveled, I always look, I love Chicago, right? But
Mm-hmm.
what I always look at is, can I afford to buy a house here? And that's my number one top priority before I settle in a place. You know why? Because it's always been my dream to buy a house because we've never had this growing up. But then again, I don't want to be tied up in a 30-year mortgage for $1 million, for example, because I don't want to be 70 years old and still
And
forcing
still pay.
myself to work in the ER with all my TENS machine and lidocaine patches and flexor every 3 hours and surgery every 2 years just so I can afford paying the house. Because I don't want to be dying with that, Scape. So something like that. That's, to be honest with you, I'm intimidated with California and New York. Not because I don't think I can thrive. I think I can. But I
Mm-hmm.
want the house. I want the house that I'm able to live in and able to swallow, to think that, oh my God, I still have, like, I'm here 3 years now. I still have 27 years to go. But that
Mm-hmm.
one, with me, I'm at peace with my Houston house that, yeah, I can go further 27 years. Because for me, the bigger the debts, the bigger the interest. So that $1 million
True.
is probably $2 or $3 million of the lifespan of mortgage. That is what I'm intimidated. To be honest with you, my number one at the top of the list, if I want to move in this state, in this city, is, can I afford to live here? And that's what turned me
Mm-hmm.
off from Chicago. I love Chicago. I love the vibes. It's perhaps my favorite city. I'm sorry to offend California and New York, but my favorite is actually Chicago. But I just can't buy a house in there.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I can't thrive in there to be in an apartment for the rest of my living career, your
Mm-hmm.
career life, something like that.
You're right, Paul, and I can't blame you for that. That's why it took us a while to really decide to finally buy a house because
Mm-hmm.
as you know, even though we're two both working nurses, we only have one child. But you're right, very expensive. I really pay hard for this, and we started the in and out. I hate numbers, but I was forced to really write down those numbers, and I don't want to be a house broke too. So aside from the challenges that we encounter buying a house, we really look into those numbers and we move a
Mm-hmm.
little farther. Not really upstate, not really in Manhattan, but in between. So we can have the best of both worlds, and we made sure that we agreed on what type of house. We don't want a big house. I'm not good in cleaning in during snow or winter, and now that it's spring, you know how many times we have to mow the lawn. They grow so fast. So I want a small one. So you have to really be intentional, plan ahead, not just with the numbers, but with the commitment that you have to do in terms of owning a house in a four season state and in an expensive state. It's doable, but like what Paul said, scary, and you need a lot of work and effort and sacrifice.
Yeah, I would like to focus people's attention in this map. As you can see,
Mm-hmm.
the green ones are where the cost of living is very cheap, correct? So you
True.
have your
Mm-hmm.
Kansas, Oklahoma, Iowa, Missouri,
Yep.
Arkansas, Alabama, and then Texas will be in the medium. Now, when I went to Texas in San Diego, I mean, sorry, not San Antonio, Texas. Hey, that's where
Yeah,
we
yeah,
saw
yeah.
each other, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, in ARN.
AORN last year. It was really an uprising area.
Really, yeah.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
the houses are big, and I said, wow, and it's cheaper. But again, now conferences is starting to happen in San Antonio, Texas.
Yep.
Is Are the prices going up there? How about Paul? In your observation, how's the? I mean, Jean could have been answered this right better.
Yeah.
Right, right, right,
Um,
right.
yeah, but how in your observation, Texas is like a lot of people have moved to
Mm,
Texas during pandemic because it's a
yeah.
place where there's no income taxes. And when people move to remote work, they chose Texas because they said, it's cheaper here than be in California. Let's move from California to Texas. How is the cost of living there from, I
Um,
would say, 2020 to today?
Oh, well, inflation hit the whole world. So,
Mm-hmm.
Houston is much more expensive now. For example, I live in Houston, so I can speak for Houston than pre-pandemic. To be honest with you, Kay, I see. That's why I was like, you know what, I need to buy a house because the gap between affording rent in a nice part of the city, safer, more upscale. So I feel like I'm a little safe, gated neighborhood compared to mortgage is closing. The gap is closing
Mm-hmm.
very, very quickly, which means I now can afford mortgage because I'll be paying the same rent in about 1 or 2 years. I have this thing where I say, why are these rents in Houston is like LA or San Francisco, but you earn Houston money? You know what I mean? To
Wow.
cut it
Yeah.
short, my thinking is, why are these rents outrageous, but the salary is not matching? We're not earning New York City or San Francisco level, or
Mm-hmm.
LA level. Perhaps we're same as San Diego, but um, the point is, why are we paying just the rent? We're not even talking about groceries with how bread is $5 for
Mm-hmm.
one loaf, right? Um, we got it by inflation very, very bad as well. But there are still cheaper cities than Houston. Like I said, Houston and Dallas are, or perhaps Austin is the most expensive because all the Californians moved to Austin and they
Yeah.
brought the California money there, and something like that. So yes, we've been hit by inflation, and Houston is a little more expensive now than before. I've got new nurses here that have moved here that work in Houston, but they don't live in Houston. They have to drive 1 hour away. So
Oh, wow.
it's like our California peers now, where they work in the Bay Area, but they still have to drive 1 hour away because expensive housing in the Bay Area. So similar setup now, you know what I mean? Because of economic boom in Houston, everybody moved to Texas during the pandemic because big houses, cheaper money, but that kind of like alter the balance as far as demand and supply is involved. So houses are more expensive now. I could not be able to afford this house if I'm buying it now. That is for sure. All right. But 3 years ago, it was still well within my budget. Not today. I would be in a much smaller house,
Mm-hmm.
1 hour away from city. Well, Houston is 1 hour away from Houston anyway, or 2 hours away from Houston because it's that big. But it is expensive, Kate.
I've heard in Austin, Texas, I was reading the article for economics.
Yeah.
Just to give you a background, how much increase it is, they said Austin,
It's very
Texas,
bad. Hmm.
is the number one city that actually increased the most when it comes to cost of living and housing market.
Mm-hmm.
And so before before it was like around 1,000 plus, less than 2,000. Now they said you can find a housing for the same size for $3,000, and I was like,
Wow.
what? And the same thing that
Yeah.
happened in pandemic during around 2020 21, that Manhattan is very expensive, but then when
Mm-hmm.
people went to remote, a lot of people from Manhattan, New York City, they move out of it and they move to South Jersey or
We
West
move out
Jersey part.
here.
They
Yeah.
move out, right? So
Yes,
the housing
yes.
cost, I was, in 2017, I was looking at the market in South Jersey. The cost of like a two-bedroom luxury apartment, it's not even 2,000. And then after pandemic 22, 23, the cost like almost, two bedroom, two baths for a luxury apartment was almost $4,000. I'm like, holy moly, this is like the price of Manhattan. They went to the south
Mm.
and they just, started selling expensive housing. So why are we sharing this to you guys? So because we want to share to you that whatever you heard before pandemic, if the people who arrive here in the United States before 2020 is saying that this is cheap, this is expensive, this is that, that's not
Mhm.
actually not really that much the same anymore. So there's a lot of changes that happened before and before pandemic. I mean after pandemic, that is not applicable anymore. So my best gauge for this is I always tell people what's the rule before might not be the rule right now post pandemic. So I
Yeah.
recommend you really running your numbers because it's very
Mhm.
tricky. One housing area may not be the same as back in many years ago.
Also,
Um,
okay, Austin, since you've mentioned Austin, Austin's price is almost similar to California and New York now because of all the people that lived
Wow.
in there. Like you literally can look it up right now in Zillow. The houses are like in the city. We're talking about the city, not the burbs. 750,000, 800,000 houses for a house is much smaller than mine. And that's within Texas. So you see how the variation, and we're just talking about one state. We're not even talking about the other states, right?
so everybody look into Hawaii on this map.
Hmm.
You can see the
Hawaii.
one I'm talking to you, right? When
I work
everybody
there,
asks
so I know
me,
for sure.
yeah, a lot of people have asked me, what is the most expensive state to live in New York? And everybody say, I mean, in states in the U.S. And
Mhm.
they would say like, oh, New York and California. No, I said, no, no,
No.
no, no. You go to
Yep.
Hawaii, wait until you buy a gallon of milk there. Um, for me, a gallon of milk in New York or the mainland is around, $5, the organic
Yeah,
one.
that's one. Yeah, and it's like almost 100 ml. How much in
Yeah.
Hawaii? Eh?
I bought a gallon of milk after pandemic. It was almost $10, and I'm like,
Oh my god, little
Yeah.
gallon.
Let me share my experience. Like, so I rented with my friend, but we were paying the utilities, if that makes sense, because it's a friend's house, right? So we were sharing utilities. I looked at their electricity, and for example, here in Texas at that time, this is 2022. My electricity here is about 10 cent per kilowatt, right? 10 cent per kilowatt. So if I spend 2,000 kilowatt hour, which is my average in my house, 1,500 to 2,000, I'll pay $200, right? Very easy
Mhm.
math for me. In Hawaii, the bill is like $200 for 600 kilowatts. So I was like running the numbers. What are you paying for per kilowatt hour? 30 or 40 cents. That's already
Wow.
300 to 400% up my budget if I'm from Texas. You know what I mean? Yes, I'm earning good money, but I'm also paying so much money just to be
True.
living in Hawaii. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And by the way, it's pronounced as Hawaii based on the local. I
Okay,
work
Hawaii.
Hawaii.
there.
Yeah,
Expensive in Hawaii.
yeah. So a lot of people have asked me, Kay, what's the state that with us has the lowest salary for the nurses? And based from my research, I found it's
Florida?
South. Actually, not. It's
Tennessee.
not. It's actually
No?
South Dakota
Oh.
and North Dakota. When you live
Ooh.
Oh.
it, yep, South Dakota
But
and North Dakota are the places where you find like a salary. This is a prevailing wage there. It's like around $27 per hour,
there's
Ooh.
not a
twenty
lot of
six
people
dollars.
there. That's why.
Yeah. So it's very cold, as you can see in the map. It's quite high on the map. You're closer to Canada. When you get closer to Canada, it gets colder.
Mhm.
Well, there's also less population. So I said, don't worry about the cost of living much if your salary is actually at par to the cost of living. But you
Mm-hmm.
can
Mhm.
see a $29 an hour is not going to sustain in California, right? But if you're in North Dakota, again, look up your calculator. Again, do it again. It says on the map $56,000 divided by 52 weeks in a year divided by 40 hours a week. And the number that will come up there really is $26 an hour. So again, North Dakota, that says here the what how much you need to make to afford a house is 56,000 a year. So
Mhm.
again, how do you do it? $56,000 divided by 52 weeks in a year. The answer will be around 1076, and then you divide it by 40, it will land you to a 26. So that 26 means that's how much money you have to make per hour as a nurse. So
Mm-hmm.
$26
Right.
per hour, you should not be earning any less than that. Now this is for average home. What if you want to add like extra home, I mean extra property, right? If you want to
Mm-hmm.
invest something, then this is the time that you will have to do extra job. So the question there, how is the job opportunities around that place? No. So
True.
if you're a simple person that you just want to do like simple living, like just go to work, come home, you have a house, you have money to pay for the school of the kids, totally fine. But what if you want to invest and be aggressive in investing outside the
Mm-hmm.
US, investing somewhere else? Then that's where the question will come in, where will you get that extra money, right? I see someone behind me, and and that's why you have to look what is the job opportunities out there. If you're coming in here with a with family or a spouse that can work, do we have job opportunities for them? So that's the main
Mm-hmm.
question too, right?
Yep.
Job opportunities. So look into that.
Right.
But
So
certainly,
yep. Okay, I want to
California.
share. Yep, I want to share
Yeah, go
my
ahead.
screen too, based on this thing. So this is one of the things I refer to. Let me share this. Okay, so Family Budget Map by Economic Policy Institute, and based this is based on January 2024 data. Looking at case what's this map
Map.
earlier is by state. Now we can see
Mm-hmm.
down to the county level. Those with darker blue colors obviously are much more expensive. Like for example, California, of course, in the coast because it's beautiful over there, right? Seas and mountains and cliffs and
Mm-hmm.
waterfalls, nature. People love that. They pay for that because you don't want to be working all the time. You want your weekends to be on a beach
Employ.
or
Yep.
something, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the closer we are to nature, the more expensive it gets. But you see the concentration there, and say for example, New York City, your New England states are obviously very much expensive because little
Yeah, because we
space.
like our leaves turning orange.
Yeah,
We
Yeah.
like
yeah,
We're
true,
paying for
true.
it.
we're paying for that, Paul. We
There's a
like
lot
the
of
yellow and the
old money
orange.
here,
Yeah,
right?
we
These
like
are
the
the
leaves
original.
falling in our face like that, and you throw it like this. So
Right.
we pay
So
for
you
it.
can see the concentration. New York City is right there somewhere, right? You can see the concentration of colors. Jersey over there, Florida down the coast over there, also expensive because Miami and all that people pay for that coast. In Texas, you can also see some blue lines there in Houston. That's where
Mm-hmm.
Houston is, Austin and Dallas. You can see actually where the concentration of money is. That's for your total budget. For example, let's say Houston City, for example, let's go to Harris County. Total budget for a month for a family of two child family is this per month, right? 7,779 per month. That's actually close to my budget. I think this is a little close to reality. Housing. So you can see now that this is your total budget earlier, but you see housing is a little bit more spread out, right? You don't want to be living in the middle of the farm. I mean, it probably works for some people, not for me, right? I don't want to be living there because there's probably more cows than people, is what we say, right? So, uh, but probably it's much cheaper. Like I would pay $838 in this county versus if I move, say, for example, Oregon or no, Seattle. Seattle is one of the cities I love as well, right? 1,600. So that's double the expense, right? Food, we can see the map. You see the concentration of food, child care, transportation. The bigger the city, the more expensive transportation, gas, or even public transportation, healthcare. So you see how much healthcare costs, and why is Wyoming a very expensive healthcare? I don't understand. Other necessities and taxes, part of our budget. So average of that is total budget. That's one of the things I want to share. The other thing I want to share, Kay, is when I want to move other cities, I run my scenarios. Like I said, we have to be very good with numbers, but you don't have to be in the calculator all the time, especially if you don't know how to compute, right? What am I going to compute? What is it based on? Some people are just not good with numbers, right? But thankfully, it's
Mm-hmm.
2024. Apps are there. You just plug in numbers, you run scenarios, use technology to your advantage, right? If you are not performing or running numbers or simulating your numbers, you're going to go broke. That's an easy way
Yeah.
to debt, right? That's why people are scared and falling for these scams that promise them like multiple like money opportunity that's not even guaranteed when they're a certain age, because they don't know how to run their numbers. They're like, so what
Mm-hmm.
happens if I get to 70 and I'm still broke? Well, that is your problem. But why did you reach 70 and you're still broke, right? That is the thing that we're trying to break. That's why there's apps right now. These are all free. I love Nerd Wallet. I read this a lot when I was new here in the States. I've learned so much about auto loans, about mortgage. I still refer to this every time. There's so many free blogs in here in Nerd Wallet. And I hope we can invite one of the writers here because they're really, really good. It's
Mm-hmm.
how do I say it? It's dumbed down for people like me that was new in the US and don't know anything, right? So for
Mm-hmm.
example, I work in Houston and I make, say for example, 100,000 as a nurse. All right, or that's probably overreaching. Average nurses within Houston City is $90,000. That's no overtime. That's regular salary, right? Right within the med center, which is the highest paying here in Texas. If I move to say New York, Manhattan, to be able to afford what I already could afford lifestyle wise in Houston at 90,000 with house and all that, I need to earn this much in New York City. All right. And this is updated to the latest data. Why? Because housing cost is 519% higher, 5 times higher to make it easy for lay people, right? This is your transportation cost. All right. This is your I can't see much on my computer. Food costs and
Mm-hmm.
entertainment costs and healthcare costs and school comparison costs, right? Let's run another scenario. Let's say I want to move to a rural town, right? Say, for example, I want to move to, give me somewhere upstate in New York. Give me
Newark,
Yeah.
Newark. Yeah,
no, I
Newark,
know
New
New,
York. No, not New Jersey. Newark, New York. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
doesn't say. How about let's say
I know
Syracuse,
Newark
New
is
York.
the airport.
Yeah, or
Airport,
Rochester,
Syracuse. I'm
Rochester,
sorry.
New York. No,
Uh,
Rochester.
Yeah,
Pick Rochester.
Rochester.
Yeah, because that's farther.
Rochester. All right,
But it's actually a city
Rochester.
too. It's a big city.
See, so Rochester, I think someone was inviting me to work over there. See, now the price is matching, right? So
Mm-hmm.
even if you're in New York, how far is this of a drive to New York City?
That's only 6 hours north.
Yeah, quick.
So not bad,
Only.
right?
Only,
No, that's
right?
a for Texans. That's a short drive. Okay,
Yeah.
we
Not
drive
eat.
12 hours to get
So,
to
but
get to,
Paul,
we get 12
yeah.
hours to get out of the state.
So, but you're right. Rochester is just on the border of Tor- of
Canada.
Canada. So
Mm-hmm.
right
Toronto.
there,
How? Yeah,
Toronto, Canada,
Mm-hmm.
Toronto.
Yeah.
Toronto. Because it's just a bridge away. When I
Yep,
used to
yep.
work in upstate New York, I have like
Mm-hmm.
colleagues that actually live in Canada and actually
Yep.
working in
Yeah,
Rochester,
true.
New
With the
York.
TN visa.
So they
Yeah,
said, "Oh, I'm gonna go on my break, but I need to
right.
go to Canada." I'm like,
Yeah.
"What? You're gonna break to
So
Canada?"
if I move to Rochester, K, now I understand that my prices are almost similar. I would not expect $100 an hour in Rochester. I would expect something similar if they offer me a job to New York, up to Houston, because the cost of living is the same, right? So I would not expect the same amount. Like if I'm making 90,000, it's about 45, 50 an hour for nurses, right? Per hour. If I move to San Francisco and they offer me a job, then definitely I will ask for more, because here is what's gonna show up now, right? From San Francisco with 90,000 in Houston, I should be making at least 160,000. So that's about
Mm-hmm.
80 to 90 an hour, which is what San Francisco is actually paying. But if I move to San Diego, for example, um, um, which is much more I'm sorry, lower cost of living in California, then it's much lower. So this is how I run my numbers. Like I said, you don't have to run the numbers. There are simulation calculators online, all right? And there was one of our followers earlier, Jorley, said, I work in I work in San Antonio. I will be working in San Antonio. How much do I make? How much is the apartment? Super easy. Go to indeed.com, see how much nurses are making, right? I see a number
Mm-hmm.
here. I'm not advertising any job here. I'm not in any way related to Indeed or something, just to be clear, because people are asking for my full disclosure. I am not being paid by anyone. All right. Yeah. For example, 25 to 38 an hour for LVN. There's one year that says there. Okay, so RN in San Antonio, 74, 75,000 a year. This is about, I always divide it to 2,000. So, because 2080 is our full year for full time. So this is about $35 an hour. All right, 35 to somewhere around $38 an hour. Right, and so that's what you make. Compute that on a weekly basis, on a 2 week basis. So we're probably bringing home what, take out taxes without 401k, just the taxes out, you're probably going to be taking home $1,800, $2,000 every 2 weeks. And these are the apartments. You go to apartments.com and look closer to where you're going to work, or even move. I like the map because I'm a little visual learner as well. And you
Mm-hmm.
can see how much you're going to be paying for a nice community. Of course, you're not going to be renting 1900 per month. That's half your paycheck. That's your 2 week
Yep.
paycheck. What about food and stuff like that? So you can go a little lower, but of course there's risks also with lower stuff. It might be a dangerous area. So you have an overview. All right. Like I said, you don't have to compute much, but internet is such a good resource. You just have to find credible resources. And what I'm showing you guys is actually the stuff that I'm using. The other one that I'm using, Kay, is payroll calculator, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. My screen is split into two, so I cannot see the whole thing. I go to payroll calculator. What is that? The one that I like. Uh, the one that I like
Nerve
is
wallet.
the Paycheck City. Paycheck City. All right.
Oh.
Uh, so Paycheck City. I'm gonna run scenarios for our friend right here. Paycheck City, Texas hourly paycheck calculator. So what you're gonna do here? It's actually in my TikTok. You go to free calculators, right? You go to hourly employee calculator, hourly, because we're paid hourly. Those advertisings are not my advertisings. They're not paying me. Select a state, right? And I'm gonna run numbers for what's his name, Jorley, because he's the one who asked earlier. See, I'm running like real scenario for you here. So for example, Jorley, I am making 35 an hour. Let's run actual scenarios, right? That's 72 hours every 2 weeks, right? Because it's 36 times 2, 72. They're like, how did you get that number? It's called basic math, right? 36 hours, 12 hours a shift times 3 days times 2 weeks. Because our paycheck is bi-weekly, right? So this is my gross pay. We're not gonna be annual because you're not salaried. Don't change anything here other than it's bi-weekly 53, something
Biweekly.
like that.
Yeah. No,
Oh, I'm sorry.
biweekly, Paul.
Bi-weekly. Yeah, bi-weekly, right? And don't change anything here. This is for your filing status. I just put single example because that's the most taxes they're going to take out, right? You can change it to whatever and get some filing credits here. If you're already been in the US for a long time, do that, right? And I'm not going to put anything on 401k either. I don't have state tax, so I'm just going to calculate. How much do I make in 2 weeks? And we are about to see right now. Every 2 weeks. 2,086.63. So
Mm-hmm.
if my rent is 800, 1,600, 1,500, affordable, right?
Yeah.
But
But
Mm-hmm.
we're only
wait,
talking,
Paul, just want to add here.
yeah,
This is without deductions first. No. This is
Yeah.
only with this. The
this
deductions
is
that you
not,
will incur is health insurance. It's a big
True.
impact to this.
yes.
So you
So
have
this
to
is
make
only
sure.
basic federal deductions. You do
Yeah.
not put yet your 401k. So you can actually edit that, go back and put it there. So guys, what I'm saying is you don't have to compute as good as K anymore because the apps are there, right?
Yeah.
So we can add deduction here. Say for example,
Yeah.
I want to do 401k and I put percent of net pay or a percent of gross pay actually, and I say 5%, right? No, not 50%. I'm gonna be broke. All right. And these are actual numbers, guys. Let's see. How about health
Health
insurance?
insurance, yes.
All right. Say for
So
example, I'm
bi-weekly
paying
that can be 200
fixed
or
amount.
100.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's say 100. That's a very good coverage because Texas is a
Yeah.
little cheaper, right? Oh, sorry. Okay. Let's calculate. So now I'm putting 5% of my 401k and $100. Now you see, they took out a lot. Now you're down to
Yeah.
1,800. And guys, we're only talking about rent, right, Kay? We're not
Yes.
talking about your car. We're not talking about because Texas you have to drive car. Your food, your bills, your groceries, your way to afford your daily living, right? And your insurances, renter's insurance, car insurance,
Mm-hmm.
because it's illegal to not have it. And if you rent, it's illegal to not have renter's insurance as well, right?
Yep.
And so many other things. You have to buy your uniforms if you're new here in the States. You have to, you want to go to Orlando, Florida to do Universal Studios and all that
Or
thing.
what concert?
Or watch
Cons-
concerts like Anna because she has plenty of money, right? So those are the things that you guys need to like consider, right? These are available online. These are super easy to use, and you can run scenarios there. If you are not yet in the States, like I said, go to Indeed, right? All you gotta do is go to Indeed, get the most average number there, all right, and the city that you like, and then plug your numbers into the paycheck calculator, find the apartments, right, and run your cost of living calculator. There you go. In about 15 minutes, you have a good overview of what's going to be left in your paycheck. And guys, these are estimates, right? That's why some nurses are like, you know
Mm-hmm.
what? If I do overtime at least one shift per 2 weeks or per four
Yeah.
weeks, all right? Then I can pay for my car. That's what I did when I was new in the States, right?
Mm-hmm.
My thinking
Me
is if I
too.
just pick up one overtime every month, that pays for my car. All right. So
Mm-hmm.
when they say do you want to overtime, I was like, yeah, let me sign up. Yes, I know some people frown upon overtime because that's not good work life balance, but it's also not
Mm-hmm.
good work life balance if I don't have a car, right? So I
Yeah.
can't go anywhere. So let me just pick up one shift and that pays for my car. Now I wanna travel, right? I wanna go have a vacation in Las Vegas because I did that when I
Mm-hmm.
was in my first year in the States. I celebrated my birthday there. Okay, you know what I did? I picked up two extra shifts and that paid for my Las Vegas trip, something like that. But it's all about running your numbers. All right, back to you, Kay and Anna.
And may I add, always first allocate money for your four walls. What are these four walls? Your food, your utilities, your shelter, and transportation. Before other else. You love comfort like me? Take an extra overtime or work another shift. But these four walls are the most important thing to do. Separate your wants from your needs. And there's nothing wrong with that if you wanna do something else, buy an expensive bag, go travel, or watch all the concert that in your bucket list. But always first put those money in your four walls. Because at the end of the day, you cannot use your experience with the food paying bills if you owe a lot with mortgage or transportation. Right? Miss Pay and Miss Answer
Mhm.
Paul?
I agree. I
Yeah,
agree.
yes, I agree. I want to add, Paul, earlier you were comparing New York and Texas. If you want to maintain those quality, I mean, same lifestyle, right, from
Mhm.
Houston,
The
Texas
same
to
lifestyle. That is correct.
Manhattan. So I would give you a differentiation. Why I survive in Manhattan, being a
Mm-hmm.
nurse. Number one, the cost of living that you compare. You have a house in Manhattan. There's no houses.
That's true.
Yes,
There's
Have
no
true.
to
I was
houses.
rent.
about to say that. Yeah.
Okay, so we only have condo. If you have a house
Buildings.
in Manhattan, I've
Old
never
money.
seen you. I've never seen you. But I think there was one person who was not trying to sell their property, and the builders like build like literally across around the perimeter. But again, there's no house in Manhattan. There's only condos, apartments. These are high
Mm-hmm.
rises.
Buildings. Yep. Mm-hmm.
3-story building, old buildings, about 600 square feet. Another thing, Paul, is in Houston
Mhm.
driving a car. People in Manhattan, they don't own car unless you're really
Yep.
rich. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
That's
unless you're
true.
really rich. Okay, it's like
There's
going to
nowhere to
Dubai.
park there.
Yeah, I mean
No.
there's a lot of parking. Let me
But
correct that. A
expensive
lot of
Yeah.
people
too.
say I'm not gonna
You're gonna
drive to New
have
York
it.
because there's no parking. Actually, the truth
Right.
is there are parking, but the
You
parking
just
can
have to
be
pay.
fifty
Expensive.
dollars per 3 hours.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
remember. My
Okay, it can be
goodness.
So we have parkings. It's just
That's
very
like a full
expensive.
tank for a gas car here in Texas.
Correct. So barely, a lot of people really don't. I mean, almost all people from Manhattan, they don't drive car because the subway system is very good. So when you are living in a metro area, let's say Boston, you don't drive car either because the subway system is very good. The public transportation is very organized. I would say the same thing to Washington D.C. if you live in those states. I cannot say I haven't tried in Los Angeles. I haven't tried their public transportation. But however, what I've noticed in LA, California, the rental car are cheaper than in New York. When I went to
Mm-hmm.
California, I was renting luxury car because it's so cheap, and I said a Honda CRV. If I rent it in New York, that can be $150 per day.
Per
But
day, wow.
yeah, but if I go to California, that's already a Porsche.
Right, right,
Right,
right.
so there's a lot of differences there. Also, if you're in New York City, in Manhattan specifically, the
Mm-hmm.
parking there, a monthly parking can be costing $300 a month. If you have a car and you're rich, and that's a common parking too, you have to give the tip to the valet parking.
Yep.
The tip is
Hmm.
very important in New York. So a lot of things are different. So when you compare one place to another, you have to compare how are they living there. Why are there a lot of Filipino nurses still in New York City?
Hmm.
Because majority of people in New York City, like me, we're not into big houses. We
Yeah.
buy big houses somewhere else, like in the
Mm-hmm.
Philippines.
True.
We invest our money in the Philippines, and then we big our mansion by the water, right? But they are
Right.
fine living here in a small area because they know that they don't value big houses here in New York because it's expensive. But
It is very
and they
expensive.
work a lot of hours, right? So for them, they want to send money back home, and that's the deal. That's what they value because they have parents there back
Mm-hmm.
home, so they would do that. So again, like I said, you have to identify what you value the most in life. As for me, I don't like mansions. I like small houses because I'm not really into those gardening. I'm not into
Me
those.
too.
Oh, true, true, true.
Yeah, so millennials, you stay more in the computer. Like we had one house before, a big one too, that we barely used the fully furnished basement, but it's all done. We barely used the amenities on our first floor, so we're majority of the time in the kitchen. I said for
Yeah.
me, as long as the kitchen is great, I will put money in there. So cost
Mm-hmm.
of living is self-directed. Okay, the state
Based
is
on
not
your
gonna tell you.
personal
Yeah.
individual preferences, lifestyle, and
Yeah.
budget, right? Okay.
Correct. And it
And
doesn't, and I just want to share this because a lot of people are like thinking like, oh, it's nice to buy a nice car. This is my American dream car. Go ahead. I'm not stopping you to buy anything, but I recommend you when you buy those luxury, it has to come from your extra money. When
yep.
you buy your wants, your base salary is fine enough, okay? But when you
Mm-hmm.
want luxury, that's what your wants is, that's not your need, then you
Mm-hmm.
have
Mm-hmm.
to pay for those. You are willing to sacrifice for some things, okay? um
So
yeah.
yeah, I just want to share like all mentioned earlier that I watch a lot of concert. Yes, I do because I open a different bank account for my wants,
Yeah,
and
Yes,
true.
every
that's a good
paycheck.
thing to do.
Should be
Yes,
outside
every
your
paycheck
budget.
I put money on that. So whatever concert I want to see Taylor Swift again, I'll go it every paycheck. I work extra, and since I have a dog, I have Pomeranians. They have their own bank account, right? So every paycheck, I put $20, $30. So whenever they get sick, or whenever we're going away and they have to be in a great air for a while, they have their own money and they have their insurance. So like what Paul and Kay been telling you about, it's all about the money budgeting. You have to pay to consider everything. Do not focus yourself, oh, I'm earning dollars and it's per hour. No, you have to write everything, even your a little budget or water or meal or drinks and that, because when you they add up. Oh, and I love planners, I love papers and pens and highlighters. I'm not like all in play because I just like papers, and I'm a visual learner too.
Oh, I
So
have paper
every
too.
month, and every month we have a family meeting. Let me share my personal thing. We have a family meeting and I only have one thing, right? And I make a slide. I told my husband where we at, what's our budget, what happened last month, why we blew on grocery, what happened to the other month, so they know what our retirement looks like. Even my daughter, as early as when she was 7, 8 years old, she knows the budget. Everyone must be on board. Okay? Everyone must agree where the money goes and where your budget is permission for your money to be spent. That's it
Right.
for me.
All right, we'll go over the comments, Paul. I think there's some comments that are asking questions regarding
Yes.
different states. All right, let's go over from the top. Where did we
Okay, I
stop
think
earlier? I was reading Irene.
okay, your map is ready.
Irene, yeah.
The map that
Mm-hmm.
you wanted to show is ready.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we can do that too. Let's see. Thank you, Irene, for your engagement. 37.
Yeah.
She didn't have to work extra.
Mm-hmm.
Where she is, that's a good thing. That's in Finland. Um, Jorly. Oh, sorry, that one. Yeah, the map that I was trying to compare. So, well, again, you just compare the colors in here. If you're living in a state with high cost of living, and then your nurse salary is also like high, then I think you should be fine. But what is not good is when you are living in a high cost of living with deep red, but then your salary is on the
Yeah.
bright blue. So that's
Mm-hmm.
something that you will have to consider what are things you're gonna do.
I think I think what I recommend to nurses is also when you're here, download a budgeting app.
Yeah.
I think
Mm-hmm.
that helps. I've always had budgeting app. I love Mint, but they have removed
Yeah.
that already.
Mm-hmm.
It's not free anymore. So now I'm using Monarch Money, and you pay $10 a month, but it automates everything. So if look at those graphs, okay? If your expenses are bigger than your income,
Bruh.
yeah, you're really gonna be broke by the time you retire. So, or you might not even reach retirement before you go bankrupt fully. So it's time to reevaluate your life and
Goals. Yeah.
actually look at cost of living. That's a very important indicator if the job is fit for you and for your family. You don't want to be like traveling, you know, westward, eastward, northward, drive all the way and move to a different city only to learn when you're there that the offer to you, which you think might be higher because you're coming from
Mm-hmm.
lower cost of living area to a higher cost of living area, you think it's better, but it boils down to your personal individual needs, wants, again, your budget, right? Are you
Mm-hmm.
someone that likes to travel all the time? Are you someone who likes to invest money in real estate, right? Are you someone who likes to spend every weekend in the bars with friends? So you got to be able to afford that because work
Mm-hmm.
is the main source of income, no money, no money to spend. Credit card is not considered a
A
credit
money.
line. That's, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it is a credit line, but don't consider it as, no, I can pay it later. Consider it as your debit card. All right, if
Yeah.
I use it, I'll pay it tomorrow, or I'll pay it at the end of the month, but I'm not going to use my credit card because I need an extra line of credit because I cannot support myself this month. That's how you go into a cycle of debt.
All right, I think I'm
You're
on
on
mute.
mute.
Sorry.
You're on
There you
mute.
go.
Yeah.
So, should we run away from states that have high cost of living as a nurse?
Mm-mm, I
No,
don't think
no.
so.
No.
Yeah, should
You
you
can use
avoid
it
it?
as a
No.
vehicle. You can
Yeah,
use it as a
yeah,
vehicle to actually earn more money. I've got nurses that I know that work in California. Some of my friends do it. And they
yeah,
come over here to Texas at least once a month because they have a big
yeah.
house here. That's totally
Correct.
doable.
Mm-hmm.
Correct. So for me, the way I see this locations, the high cost of living is attributed to number one, high cost of labor. Now, when you say high cost of labor, if you have trades, let's say you're a nurse coming to the United States and you have a spouse who has a trade in, let's say, handyman, they know how to fix the house, or plumber,
Yeah.
or like
Construction
very good, it's an
worker.
electrician, how this location will be perfect for them. And I always say to people, I mean, they come to me, Kay, I'm worried. I'm a nurse, but my husband is not a nurse. He's an electrical engineer in the Philippines. And I don't know how we can survive. I said, your husband has a trade called electrical engineering, electrician. You guys are going to be rich in these
Yeah.
places because
Mhm.
when you look into these places, they are the most populated location. Those
Mhm.
red in the map are the most populated location. And when it comes with the population, it comes with jobs. And what are the jobs? And comes with also housing demand. A lot of people who make so much money in this location are in real estate, not sales, not necessarily buying and selling houses, but they're like anything involving fixing houses, trades. Your
Mhm.
husband can have so much opportunity, or your spouse can have so much opportunity. Even if you have kids that are older, and they're into college, this will give them opportunity as well to find jobs that will help to pay for their tuition fee, or at least find scholarships as well. But not doesn't mean that those cities or places that are green, they don't have job. They do have jobs as well, but again, it's just the lower paying job.
Mhm.
They will also have market, but the market is not as high as the other places. And this is my experience being in an events industry. Like when I go to events industry, I make so much money in New York, California, Texas, because these are where the events hub are. All right, Las Vegas. If you're into an events business, what are those? You can have a spouse or extra side job, like you know like wedding. You can have like expo. What are the jobs there? You can be a photographer, you can be caterer if you love cooking, catering business. There's a lot of events, there's a lot of parties. Look into those opportunities, because cost of living it's not a bad thing. If you live into these cities, it's actually an opportunity for you to find better income than the nursing job that you actually love too, right? If you love
Yep.
photography, then you have jobs as a photographer on this events area. So I want you to look outside the box. Don't just think of nurse's salary that should be sufficient for your family.
Yes.
There you have interest that can balance your nursing job and something that you really love doing. And that's how I think that helped me become and sustain, helped me to be where I am, enjoying my job even after almost 20 years in the US. I still come to work on a Monday smiling. Why? Because I was able to balance my life and my job to
True.
avoid
Right.
burnout. You're doing something
Mhm.
that you love doing on the side. You're not just doing nursing that you sometimes feel burnout. Do something that will give you good mental peace, right? And
True.
that you're
Mm-hmm.
generating. That's why my slogan there says, work smart, not hard. Where is it there? Work smart,
Right.
not hard, because you have to invest on your mental health as well. Okay. Anyway,
Right.
let's wrap up. It took longer time, but I hope everybody learned a lot of
Final
things in this
words.
discussion.
Final words about cost of living. Let's start with Anna.
Well, like what my banner said, create a life you want by writing those budget, those numbers. Consider everything. Do not be overwhelmed by your earning dollars. Do not convert it in peso. And always look at your orwells before your wants. And I know some of you are about to start and your pay rate is a little lower. Don't worry, it will get better. Just for now, focus on your orwells and consider everything in every business season, money will always be involved. And thank you for joining.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, for me, my last words is, when you're computing cost of living, always start removing the taxes first.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
go to payroll calculator. Paul taught you how to do it. Remove the taxes first, and then look at that number, and that's when you start looking for housing. That's when you start looking to buy a car. Do not purchase a car without understanding how much your take home money is, because a lot of people would come in here doing the opposite way. They come from
Mm-hmm.
outside the country, coming to the US, and they would pick the car first and then buy the house, and then whatever is remaining is they try to struggle to budget it. Again, cost of living should be computed by removing the taxes first, and then that's where you go choose the housing and the car that you
Mm-hmm.
afford. If you can stay like less than 50% or 60% of your take home from that, you'll be good. That's the cost of living. For me, my cost of living does not need to sacrifice my relationship with other people.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
True.
Yeah, so
Yes.
that's the
True.
most important thing. If you want a high cost of living, that is absolutely fine as long as you don't sacrifice your relationship with your kids, with your family, with your
Mhm.
you don't lose your time with them, because at the end of the day, what does it take to cost you that? That's what question, right? So you
Mhm.
have to learn how to balance those things. And for me, relationship with other people is more important than a luxury house mansion, right? With nobody in it,
Mhm.
right?
True.
Right.
So yeah, that's my share. Happy Sunday.
Thank
And
you, Kay.
finally, you got our nurse all.
And for me, it's all about as much as we hate numbers, okay, it's all about numbers, all right. It's really hard. I lived a life that was let's say at the bottom of the food chain. I was very poor growing up, and I think that was my strongest motivation to not make the mistakes my parents did
Mhm.
financially, and that's probably what propelled me to what I am, to where I'm at today. I'm not saying I I have enough money to retire at this point, but I can say that I live comfortably, to be able to afford my current cost of living, my current lifestyle. But it all boils down to my motivation to not make financial mistakes. And I wasn't perfect, right? At the start of my
Mhm.
career, at 20s, I was earning good money in the Philippines. I burned my credit card. But, 3 years into it, I was deep into debt, 500,000 pesos, $10,000 in debt at the age of 24. That was my turning point. I was like, if I continue the same trajectory, I'm going to be ending like my mom and dad. I'm going to be living
Mhm.
paycheck after paycheck, or probably negative every month, trying to survive with loans and something like that. I do not want to do that. I did a 180-degree turn and say, from today, I'm going to take control of my finances, because for me, financial health is also health. Cannot be perfectly healthy physically and mentally healthy if my finances are out of whack. So
Mhm.
very important for me to run numbers all the time, whether I'm dealing with my personal life or my business. All right. I'm not so much of a money oriented person. And some people misinterpret me as that. Especially within my circle, it's always running numbers. It's always running numbers. Probably I'm a little, I run numbers on the spot because I'm like, what, that's like 20% of your income, because I'm always like that to my friends. But the truth is, it's ingrained in me to run numbers, because I have to know where I stand. So for you guys, learn to run numbers. You don't need to hold a calculator for a long time, because apps are available online. When moving to the US, when moving to another state or city in the US, do your own research, check the cost of living, check how you're gonna make. But remember that financial health is also part of your multimodal health balance, right? Work life balance and all that. So that's it. That's my final. It's not actually a word, it's final sentences.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you everyone for joining. I put in the
Mhm.
chat like all those things that Paul have shared with us. So feel
Mhm.
free to try it on yourself. Each individual will have different values in their that they value in life, that they want to buy, that they want to have. You don't need to compare yourself with other. You have your own race. Stick with your own race. Put your dreams, put your goals, write it down, and that's how you come that's how you do it before coming here to the United States.
True.
Good luck to you on your this journey to the US, becoming joining the workforce. And for next weeks, what is our schedule, Paul?
We don't have a schedule yet. We'll
Oh,
publish it this week, guys. We haven't
Yeah, yeah.
finalized. All of your
Mhm.
hosts are busy, so we haven't really finalized our topic next week. But
yeah.
there are many topics on the pipeline.
Yep.
We'll,
We
we'll
have a
announce it
lineup.
in social
We have a
media. Yep.
lineup. Yeah, we have like informatics coming up. I think we're
Yep.
also like, a lot
Union
of this
versus
is a growing trend.
non-union. Yeah.
Yeah, we're
Nursing
growing trend of
informatics.
nursing is informatics. I took a new job, and I said, I think I need to learn informatics in this,
You
because
should take.
we
Yeah.
are actually merging into
I'm,
technology. So
I'm
if
actually.
you love
Yeah.
technology and computer, the next shows, keep an eye on it.
Yes. We're gonna invite special guests.
Yes.
But there's
We're
so many
working on
things
it.
that there's so many things that we want to talk about that there's so many we cannot decide what to do next. But next week, guys, just stay tuned. We're gonna announce it in social media. We'll see you guys again. And don't forget, our DNP Unlocked is now available in podcasts,
Spotify.
Apple, Spotify, YouTube, Amazon Music, Google, all your podcast streaming apps. Please download DNP Unlocked now. This is your best resource for immigrant nurses. And that's it. We'll see you
All
guys
right.
every Sunday live stream. Bye.
Bye,
Have a good day,
everyone.
everyone.